This is the Analysing Anfield podcast on the Blood Red channel, bringing you the best tactical and statistical analysis of Liverpool FC.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of Analysing Anfield, your tactics and analytics podcast, courtesy of the Blood Red channel. I'm Josh Williams and I'm joined as always by David Hughes. Dave, how's your week been, mate?
Yeah, very good so far, mate. Not much to report, but all good at my end. What about yourself?
Yeah, same. Funnily enough, my mood usually coincides with Liverpool's form. And at the minute, all things are good. All things are predictable at the minute. So, I'll take it every day of the week. Today, we've got a fair bit to get through. We'll see how we go with it. But before we start, I just wanted to flag the Analysing Anfield newsletter. Obviously, we pushed it a fair bit around a year ago, maybe a little bit less. But it kind of got put on the back burner a little bit. Other things took the priority. But as of today, it's getting kick-started again. It's going back again on a weekly basis. I'll be sending today's at about 5:30. That's on a Wednesday. I'm not sure if this podcast will even be out by then. But if you've already signed up, you don't have to do anything. As far as I'm aware, it'll just arrive in your inbox. If it doesn't arrive in your inbox by tonight, check your junk mail. But if you want to sign up to the Analysing Anfield newsletter, we will provide a link for you. And what it is just a newsletter sent direct to your email every week for free, consisting of an Analysing Anfield topic written by usually me, sometimes Dave. So if you like the Analysing Anfield usual content, you will like the newsletter. You'll get 2 newsletters a week, actually. You'll get one from me or Dave written as like a piece form, and you'll get another with just a series of links on taking you to the Liverpool Echo website, pieces written by myself or pieces written by Dave. So they're the 2 emails you'll get a week if you sign up to the newsletter. As I said, totally free, worth doing. Dave, you've got your own newsletter as well, haven't you? Analytic 5. Not sure if you want to plug that quickly.
Yeah, it's worth doing. Obviously, people who tend to watch or listen to this show tend to have an interest in the analysis aspect of the game, but not just Liverpool. It tends to be people who have an interest in things going on, across the wider football spectrum. That's what we try and do with Analytics 5. So what we'll do is we'll maybe put a link for that as well underneath the Analysing Anfield newsletter. Similar thing, it'll just come in once or twice a week, and just hopefully an interesting story coming straight into your inbox. So yeah, do look out for them and sign up to both if you want to. Yeah,
today's edition, Analysing Anfield wise, will be on Liverpool's set pieces this season, which I'm going to delve into numbers and a few video screenshots and footage and things like that, just to provide a bit of an insight of what's going on. So look out for that one anyway. But in terms of the week, Dave, Crystal Palace, I think we both predicted 2-0 on this one. Not far off. Liverpool ended up winning by 3. But it's nice to get these predictions back on track, roughly at least, because Liverpool seems to have got back in that almost routine where wins kind of just happen alongside good performances. Obviously, there was a period last season where good performances weren't always delivering the results they deserved, in my opinion. Now that seems to be the case.
Yeah, serious kind of season 19-20 vibes over the last couple of weeks, or this first few weeks of this campaign. Another really good performance, and yeah, I was thinking we're on for this one. A correct scoreline as well. Maybe one of the first in a while, and then Keita pulls that one out of the bag late on. So it wasn't meant to be.
To be fair, based on his facial expression, it looked like he was gutted that he'd got our predictions wrong.
Yeah, well, I said that we'd said 2-0, so you can make sure you put that one over the bar. But listen, joking aside, really good goal. Another really good result that was combined with a really good performance, which is just as pleasing, I think, from a Liverpool point of view, because it just points to where they're at the moment. Touched on it last week, but I think no team in England's top 4 divisions has gone as many games undefeated. Confidence is so high and playing really well. I thought Liverpool looked so sharp again in the attacking third. And the underlying numbers from the game, they just capture what was another really good performance with a really positive scoreline to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, when I was watching it, specifically early stages, Liverpool didn't look that comfortable. And throughout the game, they didn't look as good maybe as in previous weeks. But then it gets to the end of the match, you've won 3-0, and you take a little look at the numbers. 2.8 expected goals for Liverpool, 0.9 for Palace, and Liverpool 25 shots, Palace 13. And as I said, this is on the back of a performance that, certainly based on the eyes, didn't feel as comfortable. But it's just, I suppose, what you're saying with the 1920 vibes thing, I think it does fit with that in terms of Liverpool never really seeming in that much trouble when most of their usual 11 is on the field, specifically when Alisson is playing, Salah and Van Dijk. Liverpool just never seemed to be in trouble too much. So as I said, it was a weird one because there was points in the game where we felt challenged. Palace started quite well. I thought he looked like a different side under Vieira. But Liverpool come out comfortable winners, not just in terms of the result, but the numbers back up that it was only ever really going to go one way.
Yeah, what I was really impressed with personally was something that just stood out for me was the speed in which the ball gets moved in the attacking third. It felt like last season that was a bit of an issue when Liverpool was struggling, where it looked a little bit like they were out of ideas, a little bit slow. In this game particularly, looked really quick, just moving the ball so fast, and that it felt like Palace struggled a little bit at times to deal with that. Tsimikas on the left side, left back position, he's really kind of alleviated that burden on Robertson, hasn't he? Because because the way he can kind of contribute in the attacking third, I just thought his kind of his crossing on the day was really sharp, and I'm not just talking from set pieces. It felt like Liverpool were constantly trying to find him in those positions, going out to him, and it just felt like Liverpool putting in a lot of crosses, and they were coming from his side. And
I actually think his crossing's better than Robertson's. I actually think his technique, the way he hits the ball, the way he strikes the ball and crosses it and things, the way he gets on it, I prefer it to Robertson, to be honest.
Yeah, so do I. I think it offers a lot more as a ball going into the box. He looks really dangerous, and he no longer feels like someone who's maybe you need to bring him in just to give Robertson a rest. It feels like you bring him in knowing that he's got his own individual credentials that he's going to bring to the side and make the side a little bit better. And as I said, maybe not better because Robertson is what he is, one of the best left backs in the Premier League. But for me, it just felt like Liverpool was trying to find him a lot in the attacking third, and that's a testament to the kind of trust the players have, and obviously maybe pre-arranged tactics before the game where they thought getting it out to him is a dangerous form of attack, and I did think that he looked really dangerous putting balls into the box.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first spoke about Tsimikas a while back now, when Liverpool signed him, we showed him on this pod, and I posted a few visits on Twitter and things like that when no one really knew anything about him. I didn't personally know much about him until I looked into him. But a player that I did kind of flag was fullback wise, comparison to the rest of the league he was competing in, at least Greek Super League. He was very attacking. He was, certainly a carrier of the ball. I remember that in terms of moving the ball forward, the ball at his feet and things. And obviously he's a really good crosser in terms of his technique. So I think it just makes sense to do things like that. And I think Liverpool have tried to do things like that for the first 11 over the years. Like, I'm convinced Minamino was signed as some kind of like beta version of Firmino, so that if Firmino was ever out, you could get a similar profile of player in the team. I don't think it's quite worked out so much with Minamino, but I think if you look at Tsimikas, he is in a way a kind of cheap alternative version of Robertson that Liverpool have been able to get him for a cut price. And as you can see by the way he plays, if everything else in the system's largely the same, you don't suffer that much because he offers similar traits to Robertson on a pitch. You can attack through him. He will create chances for you. He can deliver the ball. I still personally think Robertson's ahead of him, and I don't think it's close either. I think Robertson's overall game is far better. But I do think in attack, when it comes to delivering crosses in particular, and set pieces as well, I would say Tsimikas has the edge. And obviously in certain games, when maybe you're likely to dominate, when the opponent's right side maybe isn't that strong, which I think was the case with Crystal Palace, I think you can just play Tsimikas and give Robertson a bit of a break.
Yeah, because Robertson, if we're being brutally honest, played way too much football last season. Probably a little bit more than he needed to, if you want to make that argument. But then Liverpool, in the same breath, didn't really have much choice, did they? Because of the changes that were required elsewhere. Hopefully he'll get a lot more breathers throughout the campaign now that you've got a more than able deputy. But as I said, it's not just a deputy; it is a player who brings something to the side, and he was definitely a bright spark, I thought, on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the minutes now actually in the Premier League last season posted by players, and Robertson finished 12th in the Premier League for total minutes, played 3,383. And I think I'm pretty sure in saying all of the players above him, all of the outfielders above him, let's say, only really had one game a week, whereas obviously Robertson was competing in the Champions League and stuff. So, yeah, as you say, playing far too much football, but Tsimikas looks like a really solid deputy. But in terms of Liverpool's shooting, which I touched on before, 25 shots. Again, really, I mean, it feels like a bit of a recurring theme at the minute. I'm just going to touch on Liverpool's shooting so far. So, first game of the season, we play Norwich, 19 shots. Then 28, then 23, then 30, 22, 25, and then midweek with a much rotated side against Norwich, 17 again. So Liverpool are taking a lot of shots. That's a lot, and when you're taking that many and they're coming from so many different areas, that's a really difficult attack to stop. I was asked during the week actually by a Real Madrid fan who I speak to frequently. I appeared on his podcast at the end of the last season when Liverpool drew Real Madrid in the Champions League. I think I remember flagging it on his podcast a little bit. And he wrote a piece about Liverpool, and he just asked me, do I think Liverpool are better than Chelsea? And it stumped me a little bit. I struggled to answer it, but I said to him, in attack, I think we are. I think Liverpool have a better attack than Chelsea. I don't think Liverpool are necessarily a better team. I think Chelsea are ridiculous on the defensive side. But I would say in attack, Dave, I think Liverpool have got one of the best attacks in Europe, if not the best.
Well, they've certainly got one of the best. I think it's a really tough question to answer, which I can understand why you probably struggled with it. So far this season, they've been really, really strong in attack. You've touched on the shooting numbers there. It's definitely an increase on the averages of last season and even the Premier League winning campaign. But of course, it's still early days, isn't it? You could probably make a case that beyond, either side of Chelsea, the opposition's been decent but unremarkable, and obviously in that Chelsea game they go down to 10 men, so I still think tougher tests to wait. But attacking wise, Liverpool just looks so good this year based on what we've seen so far. I think that's one of the reasons why, I don't know if we'll come on to it, but something that we've been talking about separately, but the amount of set pieces they seem to be having and shots from set pieces, I think that ties in with this kind of attacking dominance they've got at the moment, where they're just so strong going forward, creating so many chances. When some of those chances maybe not lead directly to shots, but they lead to corners, set pieces, which are then alternatively going into leading into shooting opportunities. So on all fronts, really, attacking wise, this season, Liverpool look really, really good. I would say, just to go back to the conversation you were having with your mate about the attack, I would be inclined to say Liverpool have probably got the strongest attack in the league for sure, because although Chelsea are obviously really good, it feels like theirs is a little bit more one-man orientated, aka, Lukaku brings them up to a level to be in a conversation with Liverpool, whereas I don't think Liverpool are that dependent on one player. Maybe Salah, but you know, if you look at what Mane, for example, is doing this season, the kind of shooting positions he's getting himself in, the number of shots he's having. Poor Jota, I don't know how he didn't score on Saturday because he had enough shooting opportunities as well. I don't know how many shots he actually had for sure, Josh, but it seemed like a million. But yeah, so I just think, you know, Liverpool have more great attackers, even though Chelsea have good forward players. I think in terms of, you know, being less of a reliance on one man, you'd say Liverpool win that one.
I think you can also throw in Trent as well to Liverpool's attack. You know, Liverpool's attacking game, Trent Alexander-Arnold's integral to it. And I did speak before I think it was the end of the transfer window, I spoke about, you know, if certain players get injured, Liverpool might be in trouble. And one of the players that I did mention was Trent. But I think, you know, evergreen James Milner comes in, and he kind of offered much of what Trent usually does. For example, obviously Trent, one of his biggest perks is his ball progression from deep. You know, he moves Liverpool closer to the goal, moves Liverpool into valuable areas and stuff like that. So one of the ways in which we can quantify that is progressive passes. And Milner topped the game. Milner was top of the game. So he posted 11, which is roughly around what Trent usually posts. Thiago was second on 9. And then the nearest player to them two was on 5. So Milner acted as Trent. I'm not sure if he was consciously thinking, I have to play like Trent, or if it was just Milner playing a natural game. Probably a bit of both. But 11 progressive passes from right back. You know, James Milner offered a lot of what Trent did. The only thing he obviously fell short a little bit when it comes to how Trent merges ball progression with chance creation. Milner only created 1 shot. Trent usually averages about 4 per match, per 90, sorry. But Milner certainly, when it comes to progressing the ball, Dave, and just coming in as a reliable presence. Obviously, Trent pulled out, I think, about 3 hours before the game. He's the kind of player that you want on your squad, really, isn't he?
Yeah, look, for all the talk of the lack of depth in the squad, which has been plenty of that, hasn't there? I did have a quick gander because I was thinking, you know, Tsimikas coming in, Milner coming in, and you're like, they're actually more changes than I think Klopp would have probably liked to have done. Certainly that Milner one for Trent. So I look into 19 changes across the last 3 games, and obviously Liverpool have won them impressively. So there's a little bit more depth than maybe they've had credit for, and players like Milner are those kind of utility plays that we talked about before, haven't we? Where he can come in, he can do that job in right back, a more than adequate job. He can come into the midfield and do more than that adequate job there. Maybe he'll be used as an 8. Maybe one game he'll be needed as a 6. And he'll more than often than not give you a solid 6 or 7 out of 10, 6 being the worst. But more often, you're probably looking about a 7 or an 8 from him because he's just so reliable. And that's what happened on Saturday.
Well, this is why I never really get too carried away when it comes to transfer window and when it comes to wanting 2 players for every single position, because although Klopp has a small-ish squad, he has so many versatile players like Milner who can just kind of play anywhere that Liverpool are unlikely to encounter major issues unless something out of the norm happens. So injuries in a few different areas, or injuries suffered all at once in one department, like we've seen obviously last season. But when Liverpool make a few changes and the spine, let's say, remains the same, the team just copes, sort of thing. I mean, you know, Trent was out this weekend. Robertson was out. The 2 fullbacks, the 2 ball progressive creative hubs that Klopp has built around. Joe Matip was out as well. Kanate came in for his Premier League debut. And Liverpool just, okay, we looked a little bit disjointed at the start, like I mentioned, but another 3-0 win, you know, and numbers to favour that. So, you know, I've said for a while, Liverpool, a lot has to go wrong injury-wise and stuff for Liverpool to really begin to suffer. And obviously those changes there, you mentioned 19 over the course of the season so far. So
far, that was
just
3 games. That's sorry, mate.
That was 3 games.
Yeah, I mean,
It's so far it hasn't been enough for Liverpool to even concede, really. So, it bodes well for the rest of the season, and I think it shines a light on how transfers aren't always. I always say I think that they're overvalued. I think individual transfers at least are overvalued. I think your recruitment over the course of a few windows is massive, but when it comes to making one sign, it doesn't have that much of an impact on your points total. Like if Liverpool had signed an additional forward, so that forward would have been 5th choice probably, unless he was top quality. How many points does a 5th choice forward deliver over the course of a season from a total of say 90? Not many really, especially if everyone's fit throughout the season. Firmino's back and saying and stuff. So, but yeah, I wanted to touch on what you've just mentioned there without going too deep, because I'm thinking about the newsletter. But in terms of the set pieces, Dave, yeah, all 3 of Liverpool's goals, despite Liverpool's attack being really good, obviously, all 3 of the goals came from set pieces. And I think what's interesting is they're not headers direct from the delivery. They're usually second balls.
Yeah, they are. It's I mean, the thing is, again, talked about it away from the podcast. It doesn't always need to be a routine structured, in this corner, we're going to go for this routine to make this knockdown, so it'll lead to X player who will then get the shot off. Sometimes it's just about having contingency plans in place, making other players making specific runs, or just targeting specific areas in the box where maybe there's not a lot of coverage or less coverage or mismatches. Because at the end of the day, set pieces are really chaotic, aren't they? So it's just about adding some organisation to the chaos and trying to find ways that you can benefit, even if it doesn't necessarily go to initial plan A. I think Liverpool have done that really well. Obviously, the first goal was a header, which is parried, but Mane's following in, so it's an easy one for Mane. The second one, obviously, Van Dijk goes up for the header, doesn't really get a shot off, but it bounces off his head into Salah, who's made a good back post run, shaking his mark in the process. So just little things like that, and that's how you tend to profit so much.
And then if you think about Norwich, we're not going to speak about the Norwich game, but first goal in that game, Minamino scores again from the second ball from a set piece. So whatever Liverpool are doing is really interesting. And in terms of the numbers behind Liverpool's set pieces, the number of shots that they generate and stuff, I think I will save for the newsletter. So have a look out for that tonight. If you've signed up, if you haven't signed up, what are you playing at? But yeah, I think it was another nice win, another nice performance. 3-0, Liverpool haven't conceded yet. Liverpool have conceded once, but I don't think we've conceded from open play yet in the Premier League. Obviously, that Kai Havertz, whether it was intentional or not, that goal is the only one Liverpool have conceded, I think. So, yeah, good times, and I think we're moving on to, I think, what will be a tricky game this weekend in terms of Brentford. Dave, you've been impressed with how they've started?
I have, yeah. Obviously, I think we all watched the first game of the season against Arsenal. Really, really good, enjoyable game to watch after, so long of sterile, empty stadiums, a really big atmosphere, big result for the home side. I think I watched them against Wolves last week, and I was really, really impressed there because, well, I think me and you would probably brand ourselves a little bit fantasy football obsessed. People on this show don't get to see that side, but we talk about it a lot. And Wolves have been a team that looked like they were due a decent result. Brentford was maybe that game that you thought it's going to come here, but they did really well. Finished 2-0, but I think I watched the first hour of the game, and they had another 2 goals ruled offside, which are really tight ones. Certainly there was a handball one I thought was a little bit unlucky. So on another day, it could have been about 3 or 4-0, which maybe would have flattered them a little bit, but still really impressive. And, Yeah, to answer your question, I think they've done really well results-wise, and you know what? As we may come on to, the numbers haven't been too bad either over these 5 games.
No, they haven't, and I think that's why I'm encouraged by them. You know, sometimes a team can pick up some decent early results. I think maybe Norwich 2 seasons ago with Pukki and Buendia started okay, but I don't think the numbers were too favourable. But I think if you look at Brentford this season, they do look like they've started well, and you know they haven't really posted bad numbers and like that. You know, they've only lost once, 2 wins, 2 draws. The numbers in attack are not particularly unique.
No.
So in terms of shots, they are second bottom with 46. But that takes a bit of a boost once you look at the quality of those shots. And when I say quality, I mean as in like how clear cut the shots are. They're about mid-table for XG, which suggests that they might not shoot too often, but when they do, the decent chances that they could be reasonably expected to put away. But I think particularly in defence, they do look good. And this is why it's probably going to be a test for Liverpool. You know, just big Liverpool's attack up is arguably the best in Europe. Brentford so far this season have allowed fewer shots on their goal than Liverpool have actually. So City top, having faced only 32. And then Wolves, Dave, who you just mentioned, they've faced 40. But then Brentford faced 50. Liverpool have faced 52. And if you look at the XG as well, it's even better story for them. They've got the second best expected goals against so far in the league. Been expected to concede about 3.6 goals. Liverpool, for perspective, have been expected to concede about 5.1. And all of that is excluding penalties as well. So, yeah, I think what I'm getting at is they seem to be a decent, relatively efficient side in attack, but particularly in defence, they look good at restricting their opponents from generating much. So, considering this is an away fixture for Liverpool, I think this could be a bit of a tricky one.
Yeah, I can only echo everything you said, really. I'd look myself. You touched on them there, but I was quite surprised that, shots on target faced, again, only 13 all season, which, by comparison, Liverpool 15. They've looked strong defensively. Attacking wise, I think even saying mid rankings, we're probably being quite polite there, aren't we? It looks, kind of one of the lesser in terms of at least quantity of shots they're creating. But I think it could be a tough game in terms of looking to break them down, create quality chances, and then you'll also throw in the other factors as well. Tough place to go, 5:30 Saturday evening. Fans are going to be right up for it. It could be a potential banana skin. Now, the form Liverpool are in, you still fancy them to overcome most obstacles, but I think this one's a little bit different than anything they faced so far, and that's why it could have the potential to be a banana skin if they're not really at it.
Yeah, I think this one could be a little bit like, do you remember 2 seasons ago, Liverpool went away to Sheffield United, and we won 1-0, but it was a tame effort from Gini Wijnaldum that went under Dean Henderson's legs, and Liverpool ended up, don't get me wrong, Liverpool deserved to win, but it was a tricky fixture. The crowd were up, Sheffield United were in our faces a little bit, and it was a test for would-be champions, I think, that fixture back then. And I think this one could be similar. Don't get me wrong, Liverpool without doubt have the quality to go and win this 3-0 again, very much so. But if this was still, 0-0 half time, I wouldn't be that surprised, really. I don't think Liverpool will run away with this one. Again, I could be left with egg on my face given the quality of Liverpool's squad. But just looking at what Brentford have done so far this season, they look like a well-organised side. They look like a better version of Crystal Palace, really, of what we've just faced. And Crystal Palace causes some issues. So it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think they also had now, look, we don't look too much into these results, do we at all? But they had a bit of morale boost and went through the week. They put 7 past Oldham in the League Cup. And we've just been kind of downplaying their attack, but it could be a much changed side. But I just think results like that, when you've had a decent start to the season, they do kind of build into the momentum a little bit, making them just probably a little bit more trickier. So I agree. It's not. The thing is, I could quite easily see us doing the show next week, and as you said, talking about a 3 or 4-0 win where Liverpool post the next year, like close to 3, have like 25 shots, and it just be quite comfortable. Because that's what happened so much in 1920. We kept expecting issues, and then Liverpool would just, kind of bat it to one side. So that could well happen, but I think it's just worth flagging for maybe people who haven't paid as much attention and are just looking at this as Liverpool going away to a team who've just been promoted should be a win, in the bag. Simple.
Yeah, no, I'm not inclined to think it'll be as easy as that, really. But yeah, if you look at Brighton, if you look at Brentford's defence, one of the ways in which they seem to have established this solid defensive game is pressures. I wasn't that aware that they were, so intense without the ball, but they seem to be, based on the early stage of the season. Only Leeds so far have pressured the ball more than Brentford. And it's not just a deep pressure as well. They're about, I think that's 8th maybe in the league for pressures in the attacking third. The 2nd in the league for pressures in the middle third. And the 4th in the league for pressures in the defensive third. So kind of all over the pitch, you can expect to be put under pressure on the ball, basically. Liverpool have just kind of faced that a little bit with Leeds, I suppose, and played right through them. But Brentford aren't man-orientated, so Liverpool, I don't think, will be able to disorganise them as easily. And Brentford also play with a back 5, really. I mean, I suppose you could say back 3 sometimes, but against Liverpool, it's probably going to be a back 5. 3 midfielders in front of that, usually. And then a front 2 of Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo, I think it is. So, yeah, as I said, I think what I'm trying to paint a picture of here is, I think when it comes to just general title tests throughout the season, obviously Liverpool have already faced Chelsea, which was a test. Burnley, I suppose, is a bit of a test, but I think this can be deemed as a bit of a, right, go and show us then that you can potentially do what you did a few seasons ago. Go and show us you can do it again. I think there's an element to that about this fixture. Yeah,
because I'd say the 2 tests you mentioned there, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Liverpool, by the way. We just spoke quite glowingly for weeks now about them, but you say about Chelsea, well, obviously Chelsea go down to 10 men before half-time, which changes the kind of makeup of that match. And then Burnley, I think Turf Moor, well, sorry, just Burnley, because it wasn't even that Turf Moor, but Burnley, sorry, in general, kind of live off their own kind of hype a little bit, maybe, where it's not always warranted. So I think if you look at their start, they've only picked up maybe 1 point so far this season. So they've obviously struggled. Whereas, as you've just said, Brentford results-wise being good, underlying numbers decent. I think you will be facing a back 5, although it is meant to be a back 3. Obviously, when those wing backs drop in, it's going to be a back 5, difficult to break down. I think they've got a good keeper as well. I think Ray is a good keeper. He was, I mean, we saw about fancy football 10 minutes ago. He comes straight in for me at the start of the season. He's done okay. So he's I mean, maybe. It's funny you talk about the Sheffield United game, because we said similar things about Henderson, and he ended up making that mistake for Wijnaldum's goal. That proved important. So I might be putting the hoodoo on Ray, but just in terms of what we've seen so far and what he was doing last year, he's a good keeper. So it's not a straightforward match, this one. And it'll be an interesting game to see what Liverpool can do.
Yeah, I think I'll flag as well that when it comes to the back 5 that they've been using, 2 of their 3 centre-backs are pretty tall, I think, in Ethan Pinnock and Christopher Edge. I think they got Edge from Celtic, and they got Pinnock from Barnsley might have been. But both of those are good in the air. So when it comes to soaking crosses that Liverpool are likely to put into the box, I'd expect them to do reasonably okay with them. And obviously we've talked a lot already about set pieces. We can't not talk about set pieces in relation to Brentford, really. I mean, we saw early in the season they caused problems for Arsenal when it comes to a long throw. And I think their owner as well, who I suppose we also have to touch on, Matthew Benham, is or was a gambler. I'm not too sure exactly how it works now. He's got his own company called Smart Odds. And he's also the owner of Midtjylland. And Midtjylland, I think, famously won the league a few years back. Won the Danish league by scoring something like, I don't know, it was 30% of their goals through set pieces or something like that.
It was about 20 odd, I think, 20 odd goals they scored from set pieces.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be easy to do it against Liverpool because Liverpool have got the likes of Van Dijk and things sweeping balls away, but it's something that, if Liverpool are going to concede in this game, which I don't think they will. I think Liverpool will keep a clean sheet. But if Liverpool are going to concede, I wouldn't be that surprised if it came around a corner or something like that.
Yeah, well, you imagine, based on what we know, at the end, we're previewing the game. Based on what we know, you'd look at this as a fixture where Brentford are probably going to try and restrict opportunities for Liverpool. They're probably not going to create many of their own in open play for two reasons. One, because how good Liverpool are defensively at the moment, and two, based on what they've been producing against other sides coming into the game. Not a lot, but set pieces, long throws, things like that. Liverpool will be tested. Now, you're a lot more confident with this Liverpool side this season than I think had we been previewing this opponents 7 months ago, Josh, in that middle period of the last season. I think we would have been pretty concerned. Maybe not so much now because of just how strong Liverpool are. But again, keep saying it, they'll be tested, I think, in that area.
Yeah, I mean, just a final little note on Brentford. I think we probably have to touch on the whole recruitment thing, don't we? Very much a data-driven club, although they do consider the aspects that Liverpool consider in terms of, outside the numbers, personality traits and stuff like that. But in terms of Brentford's recruitment over the years, the way Liverpool's recruitment has kind of delivered a Premier League title in recent times, Brentford's recruitment has pretty much delivered a Premier League status. If you look at specifically the forwards that they've had, they brought Neil Maupay to the country from, I think it was Saint Etienne. Yeah, for 1.8 million, Dave. And in the same summer, they signed Ollie Watkins for 6.5 million. That's impressive. And shortly after, Maupay was obviously sold for 20 million to Brighton. Watkins comes in, scores about 25 or so, and gets sold to Villa for 30 million. And they replaced Watkins with Ivan Toney for 5 million from Peterborough, I think. And he goes and breaks the championship record for scoring. So, in terms of how to recruit and how to keep replacing players who are getting poached, Brentford is certainly a club who know what they're doing, really.
Yeah, I think what really impresses, though, about Brentford, which maybe separates them a little bit from similar sides, is obviously they recruit really well, do whatever they do behind the scenes to find these right targets. But I think they're really, really good at player development. I think they're really good at bringing in players with potential, but actually progressing them to that stage where they become like, what Tony is now. I remember watching Tony a few years back. I want to think Wigan, and I'm pretty sure it was. I'll double check that now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was at Wigan because I watched Wigan a couple of times a few years ago, and to me, he looked like that was his level. Maybe a championship player at most, but kind of mid-ranking championship player. And now you look at him, and he's broken the record in that division. he's coming to the Premier League. He's already got a couple of goals. You're pretty confident he'll probably finish the season on minimum 10 from this point on. I think they just develop players really well, and that's how they manage to make such profits on the names that you just listed then. Sadio do a lot of good stuff in terms of that term marginal gains. They do all that small details, but they have a really, really good player development system in place, and a unique one as well, because it's not like traditional academies, is it?
No, I mean, they closed the academy a few years back in favour of Brentford B, I think they labelled it. And I think a lot of it stemmed from, they would maybe develop a kid from the age of like 8 or so, and he'd get to 16 and he'd get poached by Manchester United or for about £1 million. And it's just, I think Brentford deemed it as not worth it, basically. So I suppose there's an element in there of, it's sad to see when you see an academy close like that, but at the same time, from a business perspective, I can understand the thinking there. Another bit of business that they did, this was in 2018-19, again in the same summer. They signed Ezri Konsa from Charlton for about 3 million, who obviously we know now is Aston Villa, and he's probably worth at the minute. Ezri Konsa, Dave, I want you to have 30 million plus.
Yeah, something like that. That's probably a good shout.
And obviously Saïd Benrahma, they got in from Nice in France for about 1.5 million. So really well-run club, to be honest, and a club that I like to see do well personally. I like to see clubs that are well-run do well, because they deserve it, in my opinion, whereas the clubs that are just kind of like floating, go and float somewhere else in a lower division.
Yeah, I know. You are right. Can I just, by the way, just on the Tony point, because it is hammering on what we've just been talking about. I brought it up while we were chatting then. So obviously he's at Newcastle from 2015. In that time, he went on loan to Barnsley, 1 goal. On loan to Shrewsbury, 6 goals. On loan to Scunthorpe, 6 goals. On loan at Wigan, 4 goals. Scunthorpe United, 8 goals. It's only when he goes to Peterborough he kind of shows himself. He ends up netting 40 times in 76 games. But, that player there...
It's a mad explosion, that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It's ridiculous. Like, that player, you think he is at his level. And even there, he's not particularly performing. He goes and does at Peterborough, goes to Brentford, and they take him that next level. They establish him as this championship player, and now probably a Premier League forward. It just shows that although we're not privy to what they do, it shows that the development in terms of, senior players or players becoming senior players is right up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think in any normal preview for most teams, I think would probably involve a lot on Tony, because he is what you'd probably label as a handful, while also having plenty of quality when he's in possession of the ball. But I do think that, particularly the way he performed against Arsenal, for example, and against Wolves as well, I think you could put in there, given Conor Cody's physicality. I think Tony was able to really get a physical hold over those defences to the extent that one player, one defender can't really cope with him, and he draws attraction from others and just generally causes a bit of chaos. Whereas I think against Liverpool, will be more fine than most other teams in that department, possibly every team in the league, when it comes to having a centre-back pairing of Van Dijk and Matip. So I think that should benefit us when it comes to dealing with Tony's threat. Obviously, Brentford merged Tony's skill set with Mbeumo, who's very quick. Again, Liverpool have got that in abundance, really, when it comes to Van Dijk, who plays on Mbeumo's side, I think. So I think Liverpool are well equipped to deal with Brentford's attacking threat. Obviously, it remains to be seen how creative they will be from set pieces on the day. We will see in that department. But I think it will be a bit of a test for Liverpool as a team to find a way through Brentford and to find the back of the net, which will be even harder than normal if Trent isn't playing. I expect him to, because he's only supposed to have a bit of sickness. But hopefully he is, because if he isn't, I think we need our best attacking players basically on the pitch to cause Brentford problems. And do you think we're bigging them up too much, Dave? Or
no, it's just I just think it's. I mean, sometimes I do worry that people start messages saying, stop going on about Brentford, we talk about Liverpool. But I just think it's nice to, I think it's nice to cover the bases with these teams that you play. Because let's be real, a lot of people probably haven't had much time to pay that much attention to what Brentford have been doing. They're new to the Premier League. When was the last time Liverpool faced them? Have they ever faced them?
I'm not sure. That's a good show, actually.
So I think it is just. We're fortunate in that it's part of our job to kind of get to look into teams in a little bit more detail, and it'd be a shame to do a show like this and not try and cover as many bases as we could. So yeah, apologies if people don't enjoy it, but hopefully some do.
First league meeting between Liverpool and Brentford since May 1947. So
there you go, mate. Yeah.
Anyone who's alive then, who's listening today, fair play, you've done well.
Yeah, you've had a good innings there.
But yeah, before we move on, then we'll do predictions on this one.
Yeah, look, I'm still going to back Liverpool. I think, given those 1920 similarities, it'd be foolish not to, and I do still think they'll have enough. I'm going to go a little bit tight. I'll go 1-0.
I think I'm going to go 2-0. But it's a difficult one, this, because Liverpool have been strolling with results lately and finding it pretty easy to just come away 3-0 winners every week. So it's a difficult one to preview. I do think Liverpool will come away with 3 points. I don't think Liverpool will concede. And I think a lot of it will just be determined by how easily Liverpool find a way through Brentford, which so far has proved difficult for most teams. But yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch. We'll review that one next week. But before we conclude, Dave, we have to quickly preview Porto, who, I mean, this must be about the 402nd time that we've previewed Porto.
Yeah,
Liverpool seems to face them every week.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's a Champions League campaign without Porto appearing at some point in it. And good news for Liverpool, usually getting well beaten.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I must be honest, I haven't paid that much attention to them this season. I know they've made a fairly decent start to their domestic campaign. I also noticed that they went to Madrid and drew 0-0, which is a decent result against the good side in the first game of the Champions League. So if it was anyone else, you'd say it could be a test, but Liverpool just seem to have Porto's number, so I just can't look beyond a comfortable win.
Well, one of the frustrating things about this, we'll maybe be able to make this a bit more interesting if Sergio Conceição wasn't still in charge of them. So for all of these recent meetings, he has been the coach, and he's still the coach, and he still seems to favour his 4-4-2. It still seems to be quite narrow, which Liverpool have a way around, usually with Van Dijk's big cross-field diagonals and making the pitch really wide and things like that. So expect to see Van Dijk playing a big part when it comes to Liverpool's build-up. But yeah, they are very much in the mould of the Porto Liverpool have faced in past years. Nothing too much has changed, given the manager's still there and things like that. One thing that has changed, last time we played them, I think they had quite a handful of a striker in, I think it was Moussa Marega. I think he's now left. I can't remember where he's gone. It's somewhere obscure. It's somewhere like MLS or China or somewhere, I think Qatar or somewhere like that. But when he played, he was a tough opponent, tough striker, and I think he had that blend of pace and physical strength, and he actually caused Van Dijk a few issues, if I remember correctly. But he's not there no more. But one player that seems to have taken the spotlight instead, who Everton have incessantly been linked with a little bit, Dave, is Luis Diaz. He seems to be their man. I mean, I'm not sure if you've looked into him at all for the Blues.
Yeah. Look, I think, this deal's well gone now, but there was talk of maybe him coming to Everton, him being interested in the move to the Premier League, and James Rodriguez going the other way. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. But yeah, you know, a player who's shown to be a really good player, a really good attacking asset. Usually plays out in a wide position, but tends to be a player who drifts inwards and just offers a lot of attacking output. Could be a probably Porto's maybe main danger man at the moment, and someone that they need to Liverpool maybe just need to keep quiet if they can.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't been on my radar for too long, I'll be honest. But as you say, he looks like a talent. I think he's 24 years old, and so far this season, just getting up their numbers now, he's scored 5 goals for Porto, no penalties, and he's registered 1 assist, which is it's the most on their team. I think there's 2 players behind him on 3 goals. So he's probably the player we need to look out for. Probably the player we need to take care of. Al Hilal is where Marega ended up, Dave.
Oh right, okay. Where's
Saudi
that?
Arabia.
Oh okay.
I think that's it. Is that where Iniesta went? Or Xavi, or one of them? Maybe
one of them. Where he went to manage.
Yeah, no, I think one of them went to play there. Hang on, I'm going to check while we're still recording. Hang on. Wasn't Xavi.
It's the important things that everyone needs to know.
That's it, yeah. No, it wasn't. Iniesta went to Japan. That was it, yeah. Someone went to Al Hilal. I can't remember who it was.
Xavi did go to the Middle East. I just can't remember if he quickly
I think it was Qatar.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll round up there anyway. So, in fact, no preview on Porto, Dave. What do you think?
7-0. Just no, I don't know. Look, I do think it'll be a win again. I'm gonna go 4-0. Genuinely, I feel like we've previewed this game so many times, and hopefully no one thinks we're doing a disservice, but it's happened so many times. I'm just gonna go for 4-0.
I'm not gonna go that far at all. I might go for 1-0 on this one. It's away from home. Obviously, the supporters in the ground, and Klopp. I mean, he rotated a little bit against Milan. Whether he will again remains to be seen. But if he does, I don't think Porto will be an easy game. Obviously, they've just drew against Atletico Madrid. So, I don't know. It's a difficult one to preview that. But I think Liverpool, maybe 1 or 2-0, something like that. But we'll round up there anyway. So, we got there in the end, got through everything. And yeah, thanks for joining us, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week to talk about Brentford, to talk about Porto, and to preview Manchester City. Yeah, big game. So yeah, do tune in next week, and thanks for listening. See you then.